I've known Mike since probably before the war, a long time. Since I started at BMW. When BMW started racing again, it was 1995. And that's the first time we took out two M3s to 24 Hours of Daytona, and that started M racing again. And I don't know how long it was before then they raced, but so I was a part of that from the beginning. And I think I met you shortly after that.
Yeah.
So back in 95 maybe. And I raced for BMW for almost 15 straight years, and I was still doing other stuff. Raced for Callaway in Europe, racing Trans Am, started some NASCAR stuff, and from that I got a BMW Open Point, and I started. When I originally got it, I had this dirt here. I bought this dirt, but it was '08, and the economy just took a big crap, So it was a big recession, so we didn't build right away. We weren't sure what we were going to do. And the building across the street behind your back, that was an old Mitsubishi building. And we fixed that up, and that's where I opened. In June 6, 2011 is when BMW Murrieta opened. And we were there 7 years, and it was actually a blessing because it was a real small building, but we got to build the business and figure out what size building we really needed to build. And then after all that, we've been here now for almost 7 years in this building. We built, 7 years ago. And the thing I'm proud of is one, the service department, I'll show you, is I think one of the nicest in the country. But two, it has a lot more character than a lot of other BMW places because of the racing. And I think that's a lot cooler than a sterile car dealership because I still love racing, all kinds of racing. And I'm sure when BMW awarded me the point, they were like, yeah, just some old race car driver. It's not going to be that great a dealer. But what we're proud of is, Center of Excellence is a dealer award that BMW has that, less than 10% of the dealers get. Out of their 400 roughly dealers, 33 of them make Center of Excellence. And we've done that almost 10 straight years out of 12 possible tries.
That's awesome.
So pretty proud of that. No other dealers won that many. Only 6 dealers in the network have won more than 10. And they've been dealers for 40, 50 years. So we're pretty proud of that.
Sure.
And so I'd love to show you around, just see what we got. But this car, I'm sure everyone here knows what this car is. Most BMW employees that come in here don't know what it is, and they're always taking pictures of it because it's a very special car. It was to celebrate the 50 years of M. They hand-picked the people they sold them to. They had hand-picked a group of people in the factory. A small group of people built all 50 cars. There was actually 51 cars. They had one car they put in the museum that never really had a serial number on it. But then they numbered 50 of them and sold them to potential customers. So it's a really cool car. And the detail on it, you don't see it in the magazine, but even on the tires, it has number 50 stamped into the tires. Everything is such a one-off special thing. I don't even want to know what one of those wheels cost if you curbed it. It'd probably be pretty expensive, but it's a really unique car, and it's probably, one of the most unique cars BMW ever built, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And Boris, of course, you have a lot of models to sell, and I think it's fair to say that if someone, even though they don't live here in the neighborhood, they wanted to purchase a car from you, you could arrange Performance Center delivery.
Yeah, which is a really cool thing, Performance Center delivery. They used to do European delivery, which was, I thought, really cool. But, to me, the people that we've sent to the factory, you get a tour of the factory, you get a little driving school, and you get a professional, someone even better than Mike, to deliver your car. And they know, cars nowadays, I couldn't get a new cell phone right now. If somebody said you're going to switch from an Apple to an Android, I'd say no way. I'd rather die before I do that because I'm stupid. But the cars now are almost getting like that. They have so much stuff they do, and there's so many things to make your life easier that it's hard for old school people to pick it up. And so here at our dealership, buying a car is kind of a longer process, longer than it should be, but normally when you take your car, you just want to get, I just want to go. I don't want to hear, I just want to go. And, here we actually have I call them genius, they're BMW geniuses, but we'll do 2 or 3 appointments with people after they get their car, and we'll keep showing them things and showing them things. And the more you drive it, you know, the more, like if I tried to tell you how to drive Nürburgring, if you ever never saw it, it'd be impossible. It's like somebody trying to teach you Greek. But if you drive it a little bit, and then you say, oh, hey, remember that corner there? Instead of being high, you want to be low, and kind of in your memory. And it's the same thing with these cars. So you know,
I think that's probably pretty unique that you do the follow-up after the sale.
After the sale.
Because you know, once you start acclimating, you always creates more questions. Right?
More questions. So we'll try to do a 3-week, a 1 month, and then a 2 month, and then that usually gets people pretty dialed.
Yeah, awesome.
And then even after that, you still pick up things. I mean, there's so many things these things do now. It's crazy. Yeah. Yep. So the dealership I'm proud of, because I remember when everything has to get approved through BMW, and the showrooms, they're very specific on the colors, the tile, exactly how it has to look. In the service department, the only thing they tell you is you got to have this tile. And after that, it's you can do whatever you want. So in here, when I was trying to do it, and I said, yeah, I'm going to have all my racing stuff up, and they go, nope, you can't do that. I'm like, no. I'm like, I've raced for your company for all those years. I mean, that's my life. And they go, oh, you can't do it. And I said, okay, I just did it. And then when they came in, they go, wow, it looks really cool. So I figured I shouldn't even have asked. But what I'm most proud of, and I'll show you, is the service department, because I think we have one of the nicest service departments in the country. And we spent a lot of time on that. So we could walk around.
Hey, Boris, real quick. So this picture here, what year was it that you won?
That was 2005. That was right after we won the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. We all put on new suits because they were wasted. And then we took that picture. So that was a really special day. I was the first American to win the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. And that was a...
Yeah, if you ever go to the rings, look at the walls.
Yeah.
The wall of winners, and you'll see Boris's.
Yeah, down near the bottom.
Yeah.
But it's the best piece of road I've ever driven on. Even in a street car, it's more fun than any racing I've ever done. So I think that should be a bucket list for everybody, because you can go over there and pay, what is it, $12 or $15 a lap now? I don't know.
Now it's more than that. It's
Yeah.
like 28 or so.
Right. It's still worth it. It's it's unbelievable.
Now, and kind of uniquely, you got to drive the E46 CSL to kind of learn the track.
Right. Yeah. So going back then, I was racing for BMW, and I was like, man, I want to race Nürburgring. I want to race Nürburgring. And they were like, no, you're an American. American can't learn it. And they were very anti-American. And it was a flat out no. But I was always very persistent. And my teammate, Hans Stuck, who's one of the best around the ring, he talked him into letting me do it, which was a pretty cool thing. So before I went there, we were going to do a few of these VLN races, before the 24-hour to get track time. We had a private test there once, but it got snowed out, so we didn't get to do that. But then one day they said, all right, you come over, and on regular open days to the public, we're going to have 2 CSL M3s for you to drive, which was really cool, because I'd take a car, go out, drive 10 laps, fill it up with gas, drive another 10 laps, bring it back, and they'd put tires and brakes in it. I'd take the other car out, and I did 2 days of that, and that was one of the most fun things I've ever done in my life. And I was just telling them on the way over, now everybody has video and telemetry and all that stuff. My telemetry back then was I just did 1 lap with my cell phone driving around. So I'm like, I could watch it on the airplane, going and back just to learn it, because there's a lot of turns, People always have different, there's 210 turns, there's 180 turns. Hans Stuck would say 185, so I would always say 185. But I don't know, there's 211 corner stations when you look at the numbers on them, but there's a lot of turns there. I mean, it's a piece of road.
And of course, the E46 GTR is kind of legendary.
Yeah, so
That car.
Right, so that car was when BMW had the 6-cylinder and Porsche was kicking our ass, and it was all horsepower related. BMW made the motor. It was a flat crank V8. It was basically the Formula One engine with valve springs and 2 cylinders cut off it. I mean, it was unbelievable when that car ran for the first time, and we won every race that year in IMSA in 2002. Was it 2 or 1? 2001. And then the next year, about a month before the season, they outlawed the car. You know, Porsche got in there, they were really good, and they outlawed the car, and BMW canceled racing that year, which was a bummer. So they had nothing to do with those cars, so then they decided to do the Nürburgring effort in 2003, 4, and 5. So it was in 2003, my first year. This was pretty embarrassing, but first BMW screwed up. You know, the pace lap at Nürburgring is like 25 minutes to do a pace lap. So for the race, they put packed dry ice in the radiators in the front of the car. And I didn't start the car, so where I was up in hospitality with, you know, BMW had this big hospitality building, and there they are in the pace lap. One car pulls over, broken, smoking. The next car, the Hans Stuck was driving, made it through the Formula One track, and right when he turned on the Nordschleife, it broke down too. The dry ice froze these Russell fittings, cracked them, and all the transmission fluid poured out, so both gearboxes went. So they had to retrieve the cars, put gearboxes in. So now we start this 24 hours, you know, 8 laps down or 10 laps down. And so we were driving pretty crazy, catching up, driving crazy. And at 3:30 in the morning, I totaled one of them. You know, I was going down into a thing called the foxhole, passing a slower car. Didn't see me, but it was my fault. And he turned into my right rear, and it was a huge wreck.
Yeah,
I drove it back.
Fast.
It was super fast and dark. And sometimes as a race car driver, you're like, if I can drive it back, they might be able to fix it. And it's not really a wreck. And I drove it like 10 miles on 3 wheels, dragging the suspension, and got it back. But I thought, oh my God. I remember I walked in the hotel room and I go, I screwed the pooch, I crashed. So they're never going to have me back. And then 2 hours later, as the sun was coming up, Dirk Mueller crashed the other one. And I'm like, yes. You know, 'cause it kinda, maybe they won't pin it all on me. And, but it was lucky enough, I was fast enough where they brought me back for the next year in 2004, and we finished first and second, but I was second. And then in 05, our car had won. So it was an unbelievable experience with BMW. One of my highlights of my career, for sure. Any questions about that or Nürburgring or?
Best 2 days of my life.
Yeah. Me too. Every time I go there, it's insane. I mean, you just can't have that much fun. The only thing that came close, I went to Bathurst to do a V8 supercar race, and I watched Bathurst video and all this stuff, but when you go there and see it in person, you're like, are you kidding me? I mean, it's a mountain that you drive straight down and straight up at crazy speeds. I mean, it's like a mini Nürburgring, but even faster. Yeah.
But the thing is, the runoff looks a lot like a concrete wall.
It is a concrete wall. The first thing at Bathurst that makes you think is like, I remember seeing it like you have to have life insurance. I didn't have life insurance. I'm a driver, you know, I just never had it. And you get there, they wouldn't let you race without it. So that was a big thing. And I'm like, why? And you go, oh, people get killed here all the time. Oh, wow. Because it's a street course with basically 10 feet of grass and a big cement wall, and what happens is when you crash, you know, you just ping pong ball around side to side, and you could end up in the middle of the track. And they have a lot of blind, fast rises that you come over the top, and they have these crazy.
Speaking of
wrecks.
life insurance, you know, my wife Carla. So one time I'm going to race at Daytona. I'm almost at the track. I get a phone call from her. She says, your life insurance, that other policy we took out, it's still good, right? No, serious. She wasn't joking. And I said, yeah. I said, well, what'd you call me for? That's it. She was dead serious. Like, well, thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks for the vote of confidence. So we can walk around. I'll show you a few things. So I'll tell you something funny. Does everybody know who Hans Stuck is?
Yeah.
So I call him my brother from the other side, and he's my kid's godfather. He just called me up 3 days ago, and he goes, brother, I need a favor. I'm like, what? He goes, I got a pretty bad ticket in Germany, you know, a camera ticket. I go, how fast are you going? He goes, 180. And he goes, can I use your license for that? Because I don't want to lose my license. And yeah, it never gets back to here. So I'm, all right, I send him a copy of my license. Thanks, brother. And that's the third time I've done that over like the last 10 years. Yeah, he's still, I mean, he's 70-something years old, and he's still like a 15-year-old kid.
Well, you know, it's been a few years now, but he came to the Performance Center, and we're talking. He said, hey, is there a place I could go by? And you know, again, it's been not that long ago, but he's like, I want to look at some water skis. My wife and I are really into water skiing. I'm thinking, you're water skiing? It's like, really? It's like, this guy was up there.
Hey.
That's part of the deal. You got to stay active. Right?
Yeah, he is active. He's just as crazy as any 15-year-old. So these are important suits. This suit was my.
That looks like the camera shot suit. It's so clean.
Yeah, this is my Daytona suit where I almost won the Pepsi 400. I led the last 10 laps with 2 to go. Tony Stewart passed me. It was a day to remember. And this was a GTR that we raced in America. That was Stars and Stripes, and BMW owns that car now.
Yeah.
They still have it out there every once in a while. But one of the best sports cars I've ever driven. The best sounding sports car in the car.
You know,
Crazy.
I never drove with a V8, but I did, and I haven't driven in a while, but
Right.
quite a bit with a 6-cylinder.
Yep.
And I just,
Oh.
same thing, I just love the car.
Yeah, I mean the noise of this V8 is just unbelievable. And then you look at a picture of Nürburgring. That's the famous picture of Flugplatz, which all 4 wheels are off the ground, and that's just not normal for a racetrack. I mean that's more of an off-road thing. But yeah, crazy. That's called Flugplatz.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's really early into the lap. When you turn left off the Formula One track, you go down, do some S's, then you take a left hand down a hill, then you go up this bumpy straightaway up, and it's 5th gear over that. Yeah,
You remember from the training? Remember what it was?
yeah. You kind of land into a flat-out right-hander, into then a sweeping left-hander. You pull 6th gear,
Yeah.
you go down a hill, and another one where you get the rear tires off the ground before you take a 3rd gear right going down, called the Foxhole.
Remember the video that Hans had with him driving the E46 GTR?
Yeah.
Grand Ring? That's still, in my mind, one of the coolest videos.
Yeah, it's really good. So I'm sure everyone's been to a BMW dealer, and this is pretty standard. But back here,
How many employees do you have?
131 here employees at this store. This is the old Turner Z4 car, Daytona. That was a great car.
Super clean.
Yeah, I mean, this is just a normal after a Saturday craziness.
It is.
Yeah. So a couple of things that we did here different, like before I opened, I went around to all these service departments all around the country. And the one thing you see are those rolling tool carts. And I go, man, I hated it because it looked messy. So I went to this company called Sonic. They only built little boxes, for racing and motocross. And I got them to build. They let us design and build these workstations. And like the toolbox there, that slides in at night so you don't see it. And they're actually strong enough where they can actually drop an engine on it and work on engines on the toolbox.
Really?
Yeah. So that was a pretty cool project to do. They let us design everything. And we even did things, like I'll just show you some different things. These are like little details that most people don't think about. Like getting everything off the counter. So like around here, this is off-road. This is like the Indianapolis for off-road. So you can get anything built around here. They build all the off-road trucks here, right around town within 5 miles of here. So like little things like this to keep these off, to keep the printers, just waste of space here. So we put them on the wall. I just had these fabricated because I had the idea like, man, I love Madison Square Garden the way the scoreboard is.
Right.
So we have these TVs at both ends, all 4 screens, and we'll play racing. We'll show, all different messages to the techs. We keep the tech score on efficiency so they can all look at it, and they get a little competitive, try to be better than the other guys. So that's what these TVs are for. And then, all the racing, BMW said any racing picture, but it had to be BMW. So these are all BMW. And my BMW history was either with PTG, Turner, or in Europe with Schnitzer.
Well, so many guys have been working with gals and guys. You're not working in the service.
100. Well, we have 131 total. We have 35 techs that working on cars. We have 9 service writers, We have a lot of porters that move cars and stuff around. We have 2 shop foremen and a service manager that goes around. So pretty proud of this. And when we designed it, like there's a lot of clutter in garages. So like we have all our alignment bays in ground. And then I took out 2 service bays just for clutter, just for stuff that normally is cluttered in shops. All the equipment, everything you need like that. So we try to keep it kind of...
How many square feet total do you have?
67,000 feet here on, and the footprint is 8.1 acres on this facility. So it's a big footprint for California because land is tough to get here. You know, and in here is where we do all our recon on used cars, off-brand cars. Here's a battery, whole battery thing out of a car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think this is an i4.
What's that good for?
Oh. Phew.
40,000.
It's heavy and it's probably $40,000. Yeah. So this tile is German tile, and it's about 3/4 of an inch thick, and it's on like a 3-inch sand, you know, before they over the concrete. Yeah. And you could drop an engine block on this and it doesn't chip. It's so sturdy.
But it's nice of you to really have them clean this up just for us to see it.
Yeah. No, this is
I'm kidding.
this is not that clean actually. Yeah. Because normally we don't let any clutter out, but they're in the middle of a few things. This McLaren here that they raced at Le Mans one year with Danny Sullivan, that's one of the best sounding cars I've ever driven. You know, with that 12-cylinder motor, like ripping canvas. Over the years, I've given rides at Watkins Glen, Fontana multiple times. You know, and it's just what a car. Yeah. What a sound, though, right?
Unbelievable.
Yeah. And just a lot of years of this. This was the really early days. A lot of fun. I don't know what they want to say. I mean, these are just training rooms. We have like things, just training rooms, things like this for our employees. We do a lot of training, you know, sales, service. We do, Napa comes in here and trains. We have a lot of young kids that want to go from the service drive to techs, and we'll start them out training with Napa and doing oil services and things like that. And then if they show an aptitude for it, we'll send them to actually, you know, a real school. And we do a lot of that here too. So, young kids. Yep.
Do you have any apprenticeship programs with any of the local schools?
Well, yes, with the local school here, and then also, you know, BMW does the thing at Camp Pendleton's just down south of here.
Oh, yeah.
And we have 3 techs right now from Camp Pendleton. Yeah. Yeah, and we have one with a service dog that's kind of like our shop mascot now. Yeah, pretty neat. Great dog. Yeah.
What's his name?
Hershey. Yeah, one of those Labradoodles. But what a fantastic dog. And, you know, it's funny. It follows him around, and when he goes outside, if he takes the vest off, it plays like a dog. But when the vest is on, it knows it's working dog. And my GM, he's been out for like 2 months. He had spinal surgery, and it didn't go good on his neck. And he was in the other day, and you could tell the dog knew he wasn't right. And it was just being with him and friendly, and it was really crazy how smart this dog is. Yeah. Yep. So we'll keep going.
Love dogs.
Yeah, I like dogs better than people. That's all Turner. Will Turner is probably the best privateer BMW racing team in the world. And I think they've raced more races for BMW than any other team.
Having that Laguna Seca was the record breaker.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun years with them. Great guys.
This is you?
Yeah, this is me. This is a really cool place in Watkins. I don't know if you've ever been to Watkins Glen.
Yeah.
But the Seneca Lodge is
yeah.
like the coolest place in the world.
They've got a couple posters like this
Yeah.
up there.
Are you in it?
You're right here.
Yeah.
Right next to my brother Hans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone in racing is it was a really cool thing. And this is a really cool picture. This is something we did at Amelia Island, and you look at these people that were all in one room. It was pretty amazing.
Boris, what you didn't tell them, this is Central Lodge at Watkins Glen, what you didn't tell them is about the notorious Said heads.
Right.
Watkins Glen.
That's where it started.
Yeah.
This is my office. It's not. My wife says this is just a clutter factory, but it's just the history of racing. I mean, just
Oh, yeah, very cool.
all the different stuff. Yeah.
You got a model of your plane. That's cool.
Yeah.
This is fun.
Yeah. Yeah. They give you that for that car,
Oh, beautiful.
right?
It almost looks like little dots or something.
Yeah.
Is it on a cloth? Oh, yeah. Very cool.
Yeah. A lot of BMW history
Hang
here.
around Hendrix too long, you get a big head.
Yeah, you get a big head. You can put that on, big fella.
Hey, so tell me about that picture. Is that you?
On fire or in the jet?
No, in a jet.
So this is an F-15, and I did an orientation ride in one,
Oh, really?
and the guy puts you in the jet, and it was so cool because the jet had.
They make you take the chamber right where you did it.
I did everything, all kinds of training, but the coolest thing about the jet, it had nothing on it but my name, like in a driver's thing. They put my name under the canopy,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Now, where did you fly out of?
Out of Rawlins Air Force Base, south of Atlanta.
Oh, really?
Yep. And so the guy hands me this. You're sitting in this big seat, and the first thing you think of when you're not in a race car is like, man, I'm going to flop around. It was roomy, and there was, you're not bolstered or anything. You're like, man, what am I going to hold on to? And he hands me this little disposable camera. He goes, okay, when we take off, I'll tell you when to take a selfie. And we take off, and it took off so quick and so quiet. And he goes, okay, you ready? I'm like, yeah. And he just turned it and went straight up. and that's straight up. And he goes, okay, take the picture. And it was like, it was like you were lifting 200 pounds. It was so hard to do it. Yeah.
So, how long were you up, probably?
50 minutes, we ran out of gas.
50?
50.
Wow.
Yeah, we were out of fuel.
What's the max G's?
Okay, so that's a funny story. So my friends from No Fear, these guys are like, you're going to get sick and you're going to throw up. And I go, well, let's have a bet. And they're like, well, how do we know you're going to, get a good ride? I go, well, I'll say something. So, we're up screwing around. He goes, okay, you ready for some G's? And he just did this bank turn like this. And they teach you, you're wearing things on your legs that squeeze your legs. G-suit, but they're telling you, you squeeze your butt together like you're taking a big crap. Like, try to keep the blood in your head. So you're squeezing, and we're going through this turn, and I could read the thing on the dash. It was 5.2, and he's like, and I'm just kind of grunting. He goes, you okay back there? And I'm like, is that all you got, you pussy? And he started laughing. He straightened out, and he goes, oh, tough guy, huh? And I go, look, I'm never going to get to do this again. I go, put me out. I want to go out. I want to feel it all. And so he goes, okay, you ready? And he went afterburners on, just pulling this long turn. And it seemed like forever. And the only thing that kept me awake was, like, I remember this so clearly. I had my left arm on my leg, and I just had this arm up, like this, like it was just up. As we're going through the corner and I'm grunting, it felt like this muscle was going to blow through the skin. And I was like, is that right? Like, I was really concentrating on that. So I think that kept me up. And it was because, my hand was pushing down and I was fighting it. And at the very end, it tunneled and grayed, but I didn't go out.
You did?
I didn't go out.
What was the max?
9.2.
Wow.
And it hurt. It hurt a lot. And after this whole ride, I had to drive back to Atlanta and fly to VIR to test the first Picchio prototype car, right? And I was tired. I've never been so tired. And he goes, oh, I gave you a good ride. You're going to be tired. It wore me out. It was only 50 minutes. And then 24 hours later, I'm at VIR going down the back straightaway in this Picchio, which is this new prototype class. that IMSA came out with. And I'm going down the back straightaway, and they're like, "How's the speed?" And I'm like, I was going like 106. I go, "Feels kind of slow," because we went in that plane. We went Mach 2 over the ocean, and it didn't seem that fast because there was
Nothing to relate
nothing to relate. And I was telling them about that. So I thought the ride was over. We came down to land, 20 feet off the ground. He just guns it, and we go down the ground at 650, 20 feet off the deck. And the things are just, and it seemed faster than anything ever.
You're talking about holding the camera. I had lunch with a guy last year. He was an ex fighter pilot in the Navy.
Yep.
Did carrier landings. I said, "Do you ever have anything really crazy?" He said, "Nah, a couple minor things, but I have a buddy that did." He said they were doing night operations. And so they come into land, and the guy in the back seat had mounted, I think he said a GPS for whatever reason, up on the canopy, like Velcro. But when it hit, they're full,
full power.
Right? That came loose, and it hit the ejection handle of the pilot. And so he's in the back seat. It's full throttle hung up on the thing, and the pilot goes out. And he said, and if that wasn't bad enough, the boat that was trying to find him almost ran over him in the dark.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the guy sitting in that plane just roaring?
Wow.
And the guy goes out.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
In that, the handle, you have to pull up. And it's, when you're, taxiing down the runway, you're just sitting there like, this is going to be
What's
ridiculous.
this do?
He goes, "Arm your seat now." And you're like, "Whoa, that's serious." And I'll tell you a story. Like, I used to tell that story to everybody, after the jet ride, what it was like. And one time I was testing Bill Elliott's car for the Wood Brothers road course testing. And they go, "Oh, when Bill gets here, you tell him," because he had a ride in a jet, right? And I'm like, okay. And I asked him about the ride, which was 20 years early. He goes, "I got to show you the picture." He had the picture with him. He's in the jet going at it, and they clipped wings.
Oof.
He said it clipped wings, and when they hit, it unplugged his radio. So he had no communication. And he's like, "Do I pull the ejection thing? Do I pull it?" Like, he didn't know what to do. The other jet went down.
Really?
And this guy all of a sudden handed him back a note. "I think I can land it." The note said. And the one guy ejected, and Bill landed, and fuel's pouring out of it, trucks all there. And then he found out he never armed his seat. So if it would have went down, he would have been, yeah. But 20 years later, he told the story like it was yesterday.
I did several years ago this thing is T-34s, and they had laser guns on it, all these cockpit cameras. I did it with a guy with a TV station in Greenville. And so you go up and let you fly it, and we start doing this stuff, and we'd driven to Atlanta. It was just south of Atlanta, Charlie Brown Airport. So driving down, it was kind of early, and we're walking out, and the other guy says, "Man, I'm kind of hungry." I said, "I got some breakfast bars. Wolf them down. You need some on your stomach." So we go up and start doing all these, pulling these G's and things like that. And then we do one big fight, and the pilot says, "Let's pop the cockpit and get a little fresh air." So we just cruise along. I didn't know where the other plane is. All of a sudden I hear, "Hey, Mike." They come up beside me. "Those bars you gave me? I got them right here for you, buddy."
Yeah.
I could see in the canopy, he was as white as that wall.
Yeah, so
And then, oddly enough, and these guys were all current reserve fighter pilots who had done it before. Most of them flew for Delta. There was a guy that flew for Continental in the front seat, and you have the safety guy in the back. They went up in the T-34s. The guy pulls back on the stick, and they were only doing like 4 Gs, and it ripped the wing off. The wing spar broke. These guys told me about it later, and the wing went back into the canopy and killed the safety guy immediately. And you wear parachutes. We're going out. My buddy says, "Hey, does this thing have an ejection seat?" And one of the pilots says, "Yeah, it looks a lot like the 2 legs you're standing on." So you wear a parachute, but they had to video this guy, and he just couldn't get out.
All right.
So they grounded all the T-34s for a while because of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's cool. You got to do that.
It was unbelievable. And that was an unbelievable thing, and that wasn't so unbelievable. That was at Long Beach doing a one-off with a guy named Lou Gelati, and just going down the straightaway, the car just blew up in flames. And this is the whole thing. There's a really good painting, a picture of it downstairs, but it was 18 and a half seconds from the time it started on fire till the time I got out.
And nothing provoked.
No, well, earlier in the race, I bumped with Joey Hand in the BMW. It bent the exhaust tip in a little bit. It was heating up the carbon fiber resin. The resin caught on fire and burned through the clear fill line in the cell. And I guess his check valve wasn't working right, so when it splashed, it just...
So Joey caused it.
Yeah. Well, me and him did it together.
Now I heard, and Joey told me about that.
Yeah.
And now I want you to verify.
I don't blame Joey.
I want you to verify
Yeah.
me because Joey told me a story. I said, really? He said, it's where they got the idea for Talladega Nights. Remember, he said, Boris jumped down and said, help me, Tom Cruise, help me, Oprah. He said, that's where it started. You were doing it.
Well, my wife makes fun of me. Like, so it happened just going down the front straightaway, and what happened was the fire just came from the back, like a blowtorch. Because there's a picture of it coming out of the front of the windshield, like 2 feet out. Like it was that much pressure of flames. In the first 2.5, 3 seconds, I panicked like a baby because it was
Sure.
like, fuck, you know, just like it hurt. It was hot. And in the middle of me yelling like a baby, I just got this moment of clarity where I just shut my mouth. And I go, whatever you do, do not open your mouth. So I never really took a breath. I was just yelling, and then I'm like, okay, if I slam on the brakes, I'm going to cause a huge wreck, and then I'll get knocked out and won't even be able to get out. So I go, I got to get to the end of the straightaway. So I'm driving down the straightaway, and here the flames were in front of me, so I'm just kind of bouncing it off the wall just to feel where it is. And once I stopped, you know, then I started like, okay, just, you know, and every split second in my mind, I was like, fuck, it's hot, you know, because I just couldn't believe how hot it was. And I'm like, but just don't panic, you know, get your radio, get everything, your air hose. And the last thing I did in this, well, right there, I'm just probably bending down to get the seat belts. But then the last thing is this thing under the steering column to put the wheel up to get out. And when I pulled my hand back, my glove opened up like a flower, like all the stitching melted at the same time. And I'm like, that's really weird. And then I got out, and I was totally out of breath because I never took a breath. And when I unzipped my suit, I'm like, my body was steaming. And I'm like, that is not normal. Like, it's smoking. Like, it was steaming. It was crazy.
So hot the perspiration was being.
Right. It was that hot. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I went to infill care, and then they wanted to transport me to Long Beach, but I drove to the race that day. You know, I'm like, no, I'm leaving. I'm driving home. And I know. So it was like a 40-minute argument to get the hell out of there. And I knew I had to leave soon because I felt like my eyes were swelling shut. And I barely made it home. And the next day, my head was like this big. And for 2 days, I couldn't see anything. My eyes were just shut. You know, my head looked like an elephant man from all the water that just went up.
Really?
Yeah, up to your head. It was
Wow.
really weird. I mean, it was so hot. Yeah.
That's the one thing everybody worries about, right? It's fire.
It's not nice. Like a big crash, you know, I've had big crashes. I've had all kinds of crashes, you know, 11 concussions, a skull fracture. And when you have those crashes, they do not hurt because you get knocked out. And you wake up and then what's hurts. But, you know, if you would have passed away, you wouldn't, there isn't that. You wake up and you never felt the crash. But that, you're awake the whole time, and it's not a nice thing. I think that would be the worst way to go.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see, like, I remember seeing Dario Franchitti once in an IndyCar race. He pulled out of his pit, and he was on fire, and he stopped. And he was panicking so much, if the crew guys didn't run over and unbuckle him, he would have died in there because he was just freaking out so much that he couldn't unbuckle his seatbelts to get out.
Hard to keep that composure.
Right. It's hard to keep the composure.
I had a buddy of mine, he was doing a 24-hour race in a Mazda. And, you know, the downshift the Mandeville motor, I raced some, throws a huge flame. But they didn't know it, but something happened with the fuel cell, and fuel started leaking in, collecting in the very back of it. 3 o'clock in the morning, goes for a big downshift and shoots that flame. He said all of a sudden he hears a woo.
Roman
this
candle.
Big ball of fire. He said it came in the whole side of his helmet, and you know, and he jumped, rolled out of the car, burned the car to the ground. But at 3 o'clock in the morning, that's pretty alarming.
Yep. Fire will wake you up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got some cool pictures.
Yep. So yeah, this is just a lot of years of racing. 38 years.
What's this picture here with the 2 lanes of?
That was at Watkins Glen. There's a poster that when we walked up that had that. That was the day we did a BMW day, and we were giving rides in all these cars. I could never fit in this car, which pissed me off. But my favorite 2 cars to give rides were for sure the old CSL and the McLaren. Great cars. Yeah, that was a big vintage weekend we were there.
You never want to be, and I got a Boris story.
Yeah.
So Boris and I were at Savannah, the Hutchinson Island track.
Oh yeah,
And you were in the CSL. Matter of fact, I was in the really fast 2002.
right.
And so I see Boris coming, so I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna pull over. So I pull over. He comes up beside me, and he's, you know, but then he gets on it, and I'm driving 2002. I don't put earplugs in. He gets on it, and it bores a hole right through my brain. You do not want to be on the passenger side of that CSL.
Bill Auberlin was there too, and he had the new version of like their GT3 car, and he goes, "I'm taking this car," you know, and he's always in control. He goes, "We'll switch," and we switched once, and I'm like, "I'd just rather drive the old car." So that car was a really cool car to drive. No power steering, real balky transmission, big rear tires.
It's amazing that CSL, you know, it's back in the day, but still quite a bit of body flex. I remember I was driving it somewhere, and I just went up on the curb a little and cracked the windshield.
Yeah.
And you just don't expect that in a race car.
Right. Yep.
Windshield, they were telling me that John Edwards cracked the windshield in the McLaren at Laguna Seca. And the windshield was like $28,000.
And he's no longer driving.
And they wanted $10,000 to put it in.
He's a pilot now.
Yeah.
Yeah, for an airline, right? Yeah, NetJets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. But yeah, it's a lot of years.
A lot of fun times there, right?
Yeah. A lot of fun times.
And Boris didn't mention, but he has a son that's racing too. Trans Am 2, which is, if you're not familiar with it, it's extremely competitive.
Super competitive. They're pretty much, you know, there's 3 manufacturers of chassis, and you know, there's a Toyota, a Ford, and a Chevy body. They all have Chevy motors though. But you know, and it's no electronics, no ABS, no traction control, still a 4-speed shifter. So it teaches you a lot of, you know, old school driving. But it's rough racing. It's really good.
How old's your son now, Boris?
He's 20. 20. Yep.
And what's the story behind all the vodka?
So it's a company I started with some friends from No Fear. Yeah, and it's called Trust Me. So what we do that's a little different, like every time we do a run, we do different artists on the back. You know, those are all faded, but those are some of our original ones. We even do like, we do for the police, we do Blue Lives Matter. You know, we do a lot of one-offs. And we're going to start doing some private label stuff now.
Where's it distributed?
So, I mean, in California, we self-distribute in California, and then we're in Idaho, we're in Texas, but that's about it right now. We're just really concentrating on California. It's a small company. Yep. I don't do much with it, just a little bit. I have my hands full here. I have 131 employees here and 60 at Volkswagen next door. So that's a lot.
What's the base for your vodka?
Well, we have 2. We have a organic wheat and then a gluten-free potato.
Okay.
2. Head back down. I'll show you.
Thank you for bringing us up.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
But this is something we did at, I think this was at Amelia Island, and they had all these drivers there, and we were on a panel. And I mean, that was some of the old school best guys. That was a really fun day. Yeah, to get those people in a room. Yep, Sam Posey. So this is
Oh, close up.
Oh my God.
That's crazy. It's amazing you kept your head with you. It's
some
like,
fan took them, sent them.
that's insane.
Here's a picture of that fire. My wife made this, and she goes, "Isn't that cool?" And I actually no. It's very hot. It's cool to look at, but it was not cool. Yeah. Yeah. Most people, we have one of these in our house. We don't have any racing pictures, but we have this. Most people just think it's art. They don't even know, because she had the Yokohama taken off, and you don't even realize what it is. Yeah. So my wife made this for me. She goes, "Isn't it cool?" And I'm like, no, it's hot. There was nothing cool about it. It's kind of cool to look at, but it was not cool.
What do you really see here? There's no fear.
Yeah. And, you know, I was really smart in not opening my mouth.
Yeah.
But where I was
Just
stupid,
saying.
Was your
I-
visor down?
I never flipped the visor down.
Oh.
I'm sitting there looking into the flames, and my face didn't get burned, which is the weirdest thing, because you look at that, you're like, it should have got
Did
burned.
you have balaclava up over your
Mm-mm.
nose?
Didn't have a balaclava on.
You didn't wear one.
Wow.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, very lucky.
Yeah. And the only burn I really got burn-wise was on my back, because it burned through the carbon seat. I had a bad burn on my back, but
So you're in and you're
Yeah.
coming out.
yeah, I'm just getting out right in this picture. I just threw the door open. Some fan from the stands, he took a bunch of pictures, and one of them I have at home. As it's going down the straightaway to 140, the flames are coming out of the bottom of the windshield, out the front, like 3 feet.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, didn't you help when Dale Jr. had a similar? Didn't you help him out of the car?
I did not help him out of the car. We were teammates together, right? So,
Because he had a fire kind of like that.
he had a bad fire. So, I don't remember what year it was, but one time Dale Earnhardt Jr., they wanted him to race the Corvette IMSA car. And he goes, okay, I'll do a race, but I want to do it with Boris Said. So we did it together. It was a really cool thing for me, like with him. And I mean, in morning warm-up, at Sears Point, you know, he was going to go out and do 2 laps, come in, I was going to do 2 laps, and we're just going to get ready for the race. And he was on full tanks, cold tires. Like, all right, buddy, I'll see you in a minute. He took off. And on that out lap, he spun in the S's, backed into the guardrail, and it squeezed the fuel cell and just blew the thing up into flames. And all of a sudden, you know, people are like looking, I'm like, what was that? I look on the TV screen and he's just on fire, like bad. So I just took off running for the infield care center. They brought him in there and he was screaming like he was in pain, right? And so we go in there and they tried to kick. I went in there with his handler and the GM handler, because it was a big deal, Dale Jr. running a sports car race. And so they kicked him out. I go, I'm not going anywhere. And I'm sitting there with him. I'm like, come on, man. He's like, yeah, you got to give me something for the pain. Give me something for the pain. And I'm like, come on, man. Think of something. Think of girls. Think of something. No way, man. I'm burning up. Like he was just freaking out. And so the guy, I've watched a lot of World War II movies where they take a little morphine and they stick it in and they just instantly go out. Well, the guy had a needle like that long and a big syringe of morphine, puts it in, and he's still whining. So he goes to give him another one, and before he got like halfway through, his eyes just rolled back and out he went. He was out. And so then they put him in a helicopter, and they take him to USD up in north. It was like 45 minutes away driving. So his handler and the other guy, they get in a police car and go with the police up there. And like, I'll get all this stuff. I'll get everything together. Like, I just had my kid. He was like 6 months old. I had like a Geo Metro rent-a-car with a baby seat in the back. My wife wasn't even at the track yet, so I called her, hey, you got to come to the track. We got to get the hell out of here. And so I collect all his stuff. I have his suit, right, that they cut off him. And like, she shows up, and we throw everything in the Geo Metro, and I had the suit in the back, everything. And we're driving up the highway, and I'm like, it smelled like an old camp log. I'm like, oh my God. So I just pull over, and I threw the thing in the trunk in the back. And we're driving up there, and I'm like, man, he doesn't have any clothes. So I'm like, oh. So I stop at an outlet center, and I buy him I bought him a purple Nike like sweatsuit, like a basketball player would wear, like really bright, ugly purple. I go, that's good enough for him. And so we go to the hospital, and he's still out, right? And now the hospital's like, he's in this burn unit, UC Davis burn unit, and there was people in there that were really burned. It was really bad. And they're like, okay, the hospital, they're going to have a meeting. We need to have a press meeting. They need to call a press team in there. And so all right, they're going to talk about it. We're going to all go get something to eat. And I walk outside, my phone rings. And it's like, is this Boris Said? I'm like, yes. This is blah, blah, blah from the National Enquirer. I want to talk to you about Dale Earnhardt Jr. and the fire today. And I'm like, what? Who? Dale Earnhardt Jr. I go, I don't know who that is. This is Boris Said, the race car driver. I'm like, yep. Well, Dale Earnhardt Jr. is in a fire. Well, I don't know who that is. Sorry, I can't help you. And hang up. The guy calls right back, and he thinks I'm the biggest idiot in the world. Like, how did he get my number? I'm thinking, right? So then it's like, all right, it's going to be a couple hours to get the team in there. We're going to have a meeting and a press conference. So, well, let's go to Subway and get something to eat. So now these two big guys from Chevy and Dale Earnhardt were in the back of the Geo Metro with little Boris Jr. We're like, driving on. It was the craziest thing. And it was like going to the hospital with Elvis Presley. I mean, we had a press conference. It was the craziest thing. Crazy. And then the next day we snuck him out,
What was the extent of his burn?
The only really bad burn he had was on the back of the leg, like right in here. But other than that, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't any worse than mine.
Burns are painful.
But they're painful. Yeah. But it was just a crazy experience.
I bet.
Yeah. And then what made it crazy, 4 years later, I never even used this Corvette suit. And I had it at a K1 speed and, hanging on the wall. And Lou Gelati calls me, hey, you want to run my car in the ALMS? I'm like, yeah, sure, do one off. I go, I'll take your guys go-karting at K1 speed the night before, practice. So we're up there and they're like, hey, what suit are you going to wear? I'm like, I'll just take that one off the wall because I never used it. And now that suit's burned up just like his. It's crazy. Well, maybe it's a cursed suit. Yeah.
You have the outdoor karting center.
So that's open. That's just north of here. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I'm no longer. I'm not involved anymore. I sold out a year ago.
Okay.
So, but yeah, we just built K1 Speed just built probably the nicest outdoor go-kart track in the world. I mean, it's like Augusta. It's the only FIA sanctioned go-kart track in North America. It's got a bar, a restaurant, axe throwing, beer garden, pit lane like Formula One pits. All electric, but you can bring any cart you want there. It's got a 2-story building with overlooking it. It's lights for night. It's really, really nice. About 15 miles from here. Yep.
Is that where we're going for lunch?
Food's not that good. It's still a go-kart track, but there's better places. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Any questions? Anything? Questions about any racing? Anything? It's the only thing I really know.
Well, I would like to say thank you so much.
Yeah.
Boris is a guy through the years. If I call him, hey Boris, I remember years ago we were going to do a Sandlamper Christmas party at the Performance Center.
Yep.
And I said, hey Boris, is there any way that maybe you can come out and talk? Oh yeah, I'll come, no problem. He's always been really good. Whatever. I've tried to reciprocate what I can.
Yeah.
But yeah, always super good.
I mean, for me, I'm proud of this place, right? Being in the car business, but I never feel like it's my home. Like for me, if I'm at a racetrack, whether it's an SCCA Miata race with my kid, or a NASCAR race, or whatever, that's where I feel home. I like the people. I like, just the 38 years I got to do this for so far, and it's the people I met along the way. It's just amazing. Like you. I mean, we've been friends for I don't even know when, 30 years at least. And it's just it's a great experience.
For sure.
Yeah, and it's fun to do.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. Cars are great. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. Sunday, I know you probably be out
Yeah.
there off or something.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm not mad.
And,
Michael.
hey,